Just as the Russian military convoy enters, Ukraine detonates the bridge. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Future X USA channel. Please subscribe and like my videos so you never miss an update. In this episode, we are taking a deep dive into one of the most dramatic moments of the current conflict, an event that combined timing, engineering, and strategic calculation. Before we examine the details, here is a quick summary of the story. A large Russian military convoy was moving toward a key crossing point that had been used for weeks as a supply route. Ukrainian forces, aware of the convoy's schedule and its importance, reportedly prepared charges on the bridge and detonated them at the exact moment the vehicles were beginning to cross. The blast sent plumes of smoke and fire into the air, cutting off the route and leaving heavy equipment stranded. This incident has since been replayed across social media and news channels because it symbolizes how infrastructure can become a tool of warfare. From the outside, the scene appeared like a textbook photograph of 21st century conflict. The bridge itself was not simply a civilian structure, but a reinforced military-grade crossing with multiple lanes, steel beams, and concrete supports designed to handle tanks and armored carriers. Its exterior lines were functional and heavy, more about utility than aesthetics, and at first glance it looked indestructible. Satellite images and drone footage taken before the event showed a solid span stretching across the water, with guardrails, service lanes, and supply vehicles lined up at either end. As the convoy approached, its long columns of olive green trucks and armored transports created a stark contrast against the gray structure. Within seconds of the detonation, however, the exterior view changed completely. Flames licked upward, sections of the deck collapsed, and thick black smoke billowed so high that it obscured much of the surrounding landscape. Viewers around the world saw this transformation from strength to vulnerability in real time. Inside the vehicles, the situation was far more chaotic. Soldiers who had been sitting in tight quarters, expecting a routine crossing, suddenly found themselves jolted by an explosion, communications cut off, and visibility reduced to almost nothing. Interior conditions in such convoys are already cramped and hot, with limited windows and narrow aisles. When shockwaves from a blast hit metal walls, the sound is deafening and confusion spreads quickly. Reports suggest that drivers tried to reverse or veer off the bridge, but were forced to stop due to damage and debris. For those inside command vehicles, the information flow was fractured, radio static replaced clear orders, and the normal rhythm of movement broke down. This glimpse of the interior experience highlights the human side of what appears from the outside like a simple tactical strike. Looking at the performance of the operation from a purely analytical standpoint, the detonation achieved its objectives. The bridge was rendered unusable for heavy vehicles, halting the convoy's advance and forcing Russian forces to seek alternative routes. In logistical terms, every hour of delay translates into supply shortages at the front and increased vulnerability elsewhere. Ukraine's timing showed detailed reconnaissance and coordination because striking too early would have left the bridge empty and striking too late would have allowed most of the vehicles to cross. Instead, the charges were triggered at the precise moment that maximized disruption. For Russia, the performance of its security measures and route planning was exposed as insufficient. The incident underscored how in modern conflicts mobility and infrastructure are as critical as firepower. Although the bridge was built with certain safety features, they were designed mainly for accidents or natural stresses, not deliberate sabotage. Reinforced concrete, blast-resistant materials, and emergency support beams can mitigate minor damage, but cannot fully withstand carefully placed explosives. The collapse of sections despite these features illustrates the limits of engineering in a wartime environment. For the convoy, safety protocols such as maintaining distance between vehicles, having emergency evacuation procedures, and using armored cabs may have saved lives but could not prevent the larger operational setback. This intersection of engineering, safety, and tactical vulnerability is part of why the event attracted so much international attention. It is a vivid case study in the gap between peacetime standards and wartime realities. What makes this incident stand out? Its unique selling point, so to speak, is the combination of timing, symbolism, and media impact. Bridges have always been strategic targets because they represent movement, connection, and control. Detonating a bridge while an adversary's forces are on it sends a stronger message than destroying an empty span. It not only delays troops, but also broadcasts an image of precision and defiance. In the age of instant video, that image travels around the world within minutes, shaping perceptions far beyond the battlefield. This is why military analysts describe such operations as both kinetic and communicative. They inflict physical damage while delivering a psychological and political signal. For supporters of Ukraine, the incident was proof of ingenuity and resilience. For Russia, it was a reminder of vulnerability even in areas it considered secure. Discussing the price or cost of this operation involves more than just the bridge's construction value. Estimates put the direct infrastructure damage in the millions of dollars, considering the materials, labor, and time needed to rebuild or repair. Add to that the destroyed or stranded vehicles, lost equipment, and the cost of rerouting supplies over longer distances, and the financial toll on Russian operations climbs much higher. On the Ukrainian side, the investment was in intelligence, planning, and the explosives themselves, a fraction of the opponent's loss but still significant in terms of scarce resources. The asymmetric nature of cost here is part of the strategy. A relatively low expenditure can create a disproportionately large disruption to an adversary's logistics. This kind of cost calculus is common in modern conflicts, where one side relies on precision and timing rather than sheer volume. As the smoke cleared, international observers began debating the implications. Could Russia secure its supply lines more effectively? Would Ukraine continue targeting infrastructure at this scale? Beyond the military questions, the incident also raised issues about civilian impact, environmental damage, and the long-term rebuilding of critical crossings once the conflict ends. Engineers have pointed out that rebuilding a heavily damaged bridge under wartime conditions is a complex task involving not only materials but also security for workers and equipment. Economists have noted the ripple effects on regional trade and transportation, as destroyed infrastructure can isolate communities and disrupt commerce far from the front lines. These broader considerations turn a single explosion into a multi-layered event with consequences across security, economics, and society. From a communications perspective, the way the event was framed also mattered. Ukraine presented it as a precise defensive measure against an invading force, emphasizing timing and minimizing collateral damage. Russian outlets described it as sabotage and terrorism, focusing on the loss of infrastructure and potential risk to civilians. International media chose headlines that highlighted the drama. Phrases like "just as the convoy entered" reinforced the impression of cinematic timing. This framing shapes how audiences interpret the event and influences political support, sanctions, and diplomatic pressure. In other words, the detonation was not only a military action, but also a narrative contest. For viewers of Future X USA, understanding such incidents through the lens of exterior, interior, performance, safety, unique factors, and cost helps cut through the noise. It allows us to see beyond the initial images of smoke and flames and to appreciate the underlying mechanics of how and why such operations happen. It also provides insight into the future of warfare, where infrastructure, timing, and information are as critical as tanks and aircraft. By analyzing this single event in detail, we can learn lessons about resilience, vulnerability, and strategy that apply to conflicts and crises around the world. In conclusion, the detonation of the bridge as the Russian convoy entered serves as a striking example of modern tactical operations. It transformed a seemingly routine supply movement into an international headline, showing how a well-planned strike on infrastructure can alter the momentum of a much larger force. From the exterior view of a massive, reinforced bridge to the interior experience of soldiers caught in an explosion, from the performance of the operation to the limits of safety features, from the unique selling point of timing to the asymmetric costs inflicted, every element of this event illustrates the evolving nature of conflict. If you found this breakdown informative, please subscribe to the Future X USA channel and like this video so you don't miss our next analysis. Your support helps us bring you clear explanations of complex events and technology trends from around the world, and we look forward to exploring the next story with you.